Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and it's not intended as financial advice. So it's been almost a month since I've done a video for this channel. I know a lot of you have asked for that over the past week or two, and I apologize for not doing a video sooner, but for the most part, if I can make it a tweet instead of a video, why make a video? Anyway, so it's been a month, and I rewatched this twice. For the most part, I think the analysis still stands. This basically was the bottom, right? I wouldn't have changed anything about the analysis here in retrospect. We looked like trash. We looked like we were heading lower, and then the impossible happened. Well, I wouldn't say impossible. The very low probability happened in that we bounced extremely hard off of some low liquidity options, short squeeze, gamma, delta, beta, Elon, Sailor, Conference, Kathy Wood. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But it happened. It's old news at this point. So I'll talk about where we're going from there. If you want to see more of me, I do 3 videos a day for the BraveNewCoin channel. So subscribe to them. Check them out. This is my ugly mug there in the front. We'll start with some boring BTC stuff that's just worth looking at, like ancillary to price. What is hash rate doing? Hash rate stopped dying. Why is that important? Well, if China exodus is happening, that's probably going to have a negative impact on price, regardless of price following hash rate following price. Some of this hash rate decline was due to price. It's hard to tease apart which exactly was what, but China's gone now, ideally, based on available information. And it looks like some of that is starting to be recovered over the past 2 difficulty adjustments. So that's good. Headed in the right direction there. Mempool is relatively empty. We had a bit of an issue with block times and full blocks and other nonsense related to hash rate dropping off significantly. All that has since abated, and we're basically empty now. And for the tech, the most basic thing you can always do, if you have a local high, if you have a local bottom, in this case, the local high is all-time high. But the first thing you should always do, if you think it's a relative bottom, or if you think it's a relative top from a bearish move, just fib it out. Take the top, put it on the line chart, get rid of the wicks. I don't like wicks. I don't like to look at them for the most part. You got the top here, the bottom here, and your bare minimum projection is 50%, 100%, and then 2x, right? So these aren't necessarily fibs, but it's in the fib tool. 50% isn't a fib. Anyway, so we've hit the 50% on BTC. The next move up is 64. Past that, it's 85 to 100, essentially. And once we get close to that 6-figure mark, everybody's going to be looking at that, just like they were looking at 10K, just like they were looking at 1K, just like they were looking at 50K. These are important psychological levels. And the cloud, I'll get to that, has helped guide us from this 40 to 47 level. But just look at this monstrous bounce from the bottom. Insane. ETH even more insane than that. Here's the 2-year MA multiplier, buy zone, sell zone. We didn't quite get to the buy zone here. It's a bit weird in several different ways. Didn't quite reach the top, kind of grazed it, skinned our knee on it, broke the midline, didn't quite reach the bottom, right? So the signal on this thing lately hasn't been amazing, although you could argue very similar type of signal here, where we didn't retest the midline and ended up going back to the buy zone. Very possible we see that now, right? I'm watching the same charts you're watching, and again, there's that 110, 108K level. By the time it gets there, probably by the end of this year, certainly possible. Q4 is typically bullish, Q1 typically isn't. September is typically crap, so keep that in mind as we have a banger August. But I don't hate 100K by the end of the year. We found a bottom, right? We did all the things we needed to do miraculously. Flipped the 20 SMA on the weekly. This is the EMA, but whatever, same principle. Historically, if we're above, we're bullish. If we're below, we're bearish. This is on occasion noisy. Noisy a bit in 2014, noisy a bit in 2020, 2019. But for the most part, if we're above that, we're bullish. We're raging, roaring through the cloud with this edge-to-edge move. And the initial trepidation I had on this was we were so far above the TK lines. The cloud, for the most part, wants everything in harmony and unison. It wants price close to the TK lines. It doesn't like the cloud thick. It doesn't like being away from the cloud. All of these represent like micro mean reversions that give you some hint to oversold, overbought conditions, right? So when we get far below the Kijun, I say we're probably going to go back to the Kijun like we did here, or we flatten out and the Kijun meets price, right? But at the very least, it tells you until this Kijun mean reverts to price, then it's more and more unlikely that we just keep falling, right? So this even though this looked bearish, I wouldn't change a thing about what I said on the last video, but you know, we bounced to the Kijun and then some. So way above the Kijun, through the cloud, through that ETE, the Kijun right now is at 37. So that's the risk. And it's going to take a while for these averages to figure out what the hell's going on here, because we've gone from 60 to 30 to 50 basically in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, I don't know, whatever. And these are high time frame averages, right? So it's going to take some time. And you want cloud to be bullish. You want TK lines above the cloud, ideally lagging span above the cloud. But we're well on our way to where we need to be. This is what I said on July 29th when I could have done a video, but I didn't because I just thought, we could just do a tweet. But this is the edge to edge setup. You know, you look for this any place you can get it, whenever you can get it. And you always have to be leaning towards the reversal, whatever this tells you to do, so long as the TK lines are bullish, that they were. And I said here, you know, be careful because blah, 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 Kijun. But there was also a yearly pivot here. So again, that's where we're at now. Another interesting thing I discovered kind of randomly, that this OG pitchfork from 2015, really what you're looking at is a rate of change, an expected rate of change over time. We've been above it, we've been below it. You can say it's been invalidated in both directions. That's fine. But it's caught the top here, it's caught the top here. And if we get back inside of it, 63 plus is certainly the mean reversion target. Another way to just say, yeah, you know, we're back on course. Meat is back on the menu for 63 plus or higher. By the time it gets in this thing and through it, you know, again, that's 6 figures by at least Q2 2022, I'd assume. Oh, by the way, we also have a golden cross this week, today, after the death cross. Generally, golden cross, death cross don't always pan out perfectly, beautifully. A lot of people like to poo-poo the crosses here. But it's hard to be bearish when we are golden crossed. It's hard to be bullish when we're death crossed. To see this flip back and forth is just additional confirmation, confluence, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's lagging. I don't care. Don't at me in the comments. Ideally from here, again, we bounce on this 200 again. We tested as support. You could say, okay, maybe we already did. Is this a rising wedge? Is there a bear div in here? The more we slow down, the more confident I get that we're going to see this push to 100K. If we just push straight up to 60 from here, you know, if ETH just goes to 5 or higher straight up, the down is going to be even more catastrophic than it was in May 18th. We're already seeing OI explode, borrow volumes explode. The long squeeze on DeFi is never going to go away. It's perpetually going to be there. So these drawdowns are just going to get bigger over time. And that's the worry here. I'm not bearish, but I'm cautiously bullish because I know what can happen. I've seen it before, right? So I want to get in a bigger way on leverage. You know, if I'm not in on spot, which I am, but if I wasn't, I would definitely get back in at the 200, definitely get back in at the Kijun here at 37, 38, whatever that is. Because again, this will take time to figure itself out. So this won't go to infinity without you. I always say that. Even on the alligator fractal stuff, you know, if you wanted to cheat something to get in quicker than the cloud, I would always watch this, because this told you at 34K on the daily when it was above the alligator crossed. You know, these are the times when this indicator is super valuable, when price is moving extremely quickly as it did at those levels, just day after day after day of 8 to 10% moves. So currently it's holding a stop loss at 37, which is both significantly lower than here and where I'd want to get back in if I wasn't, or where I want to open a leverage position. So again, not perfect, but this thing is bullish for you as well. And if you just trade in yearly pivots, well, we reclaimed the R1, we're at the R2, the next one's the R3, and then there's the R4 at 80. Here's another super simple way to analyze anything. Just pop on the yearly or monthly pivots. What does it look like? Now, this was clearly an important level previously before we broke down. It's going to be an important level if we break up, as is the previous all-time high, right? It's kind of just that easy. From a tech perspective, the 200-week moving average is blue, meaning it hasn't moved up hardly any recently. So again, this is another way of saying things could get much crazier down the line here. Puel multiple falsely dipped super low thanks to difficulty declining really quickly. That's back into like the middle of the range. Generally anything above 4 is, so a 4x multiple. Basically the miner's getting too rich and applying sell pressure. So we've got a ways up on that. So that looks fine. Pi cycle top was correct once. We'll see what it looks like again, but it's got plenty of room for more later on. This thing is super wide apart, so we got plenty of time there. And MVRV, probably one of the better signals historically, even most recently, is currently at 2.3, and this thing likes to get to 7 plus. So things can get much crazier from here. We've sufficiently retraced, even though across the board we didn't get back to where I'd like to get back to comfortably just sell my liver and everything, right? The extra lobes that have grown back since I sold it the last time at 22K, 20K, whatever that is. But yeah, I like 6 figures. Why not? We found a bottom. Let's go. If we look at the hodl waves, another decent metric for macro top, basically when 50% of the network has moved over the past 3 to 6 months, historically that's been a top. That's represented old holders cashing out, or the unhodling metric, if you will. And we're currently at 30% of the total chain, so things can get much crazier. So BTC looks good. I'm most comfortable with this thing when we are all cylinders on the cloud. This may take all of September to figure out what's going on, right? But the E has happened. We rarely shoot through this thing. After the E, we did it in 2019. ETH is doing it now. We're up 80% plus from the bottom. You know, the question is, do I want to be leveraged up here yet? I don't think so. I think I'd rather wait, give this thing some time, either a pullback or cloud signals flipping. For ETH, I mean, what can you say, right? The fundamentals are all that really matters. Doesn't matter that nobody's using 1559. People are minting NFTs, overpaying for gas. Gas is trending upwards. And that's kind of it, right? As long as the gas prices stay high, they burn more. And the scam continues. Just keeps on rolling. Mempool's getting busier and busier and busier as NFT garbage is taking over. And if you've made money on that, congrats. I'm happy for you, proud of you. Good for ETH being the world computer. If we look at the dashboard for net reduction, 35% reduction in issuance. So yeah, that should impact price pretty positively. And you know, ultimately, this is the true scam, that there's very little adoption. It's been however many days it's been. Maybe it's too soon to get bearish on this, but when MetaMask isn't even adopting this thing readily, and whoever else, that's just like, you know, what are we doing, right? Because it was framed as ultrasound money, the next best thing since sliced bread, and people are still overpaying for gas, which is why gas is high and we're burning more than we should be. Things go on and on and on, right? And the truth wasn't really sold to you. It was, we want to pump our bags, which is fine. I'm in ETH too. Let it go to infinity. I'm happy. The untruths that I cannot stand. Here's ETH on that super simple analysis. Again, high to low. What is the projection? 50%, full retracement, and then 2x. So that'll be 57 to 66. It's going to be the next leg up if this thing is able to break through 42. And it's had an even more impressive bottoming than BTC. All this stuff had this triple bottom W bull div that actually played out, right? The things that happened needed to happen were above the 20 SMA or EMA again on the weekly. So it's hard to be bearish when that's the case. We didn't quite retrace to the 365 MA at 15 to 16. We didn't quite reach the top previously, but currently that's at 7.6. That's going to keep raising. Slightly higher than the 1618 measured move extension. And this could happen in Q4. Probably doesn't happen in Q1. And if it doesn't happen in Q4, it's probably happening in Q2. Like it's hard not to be blanketly bullish on this. It's just the next 2 weeks that I'm less bullish because I really want to see this thing just clobber a bunch of people first. Because right now it's just easy money. Everybody's on the free money train. So that makes me a bit nervous. Here's the cloud. So again, it reached that edge to edge rather quickly. Now it's way above for several days. So you can't even argue with the bullishness there. Just a garden variety Kumo breakout. Now the cloud is not yet bullish. It's going to take probably a week or two for this thing to flip bullish. But you want to be fully leveraged or whatever sized up by the time this thing flips bullish again. Because historically on the daily, these bullish Kumo breakouts for BTC or ETH with these settings don't happen frequently, and they usually play out pretty strong. So even though we're up 100% from the bottom or whatever it is, you know, the next Q4 could really be insane. ETH actually held its 5200 bull cross the entire time and not yet getting a bear div just yet. You could get just like a multi-week bear div as we go to 42 and then find some resistance and probably end up retracing back to this level. But things look fine, right? You can't argue with trend metrics being on your side. This is the alligator fractal stuff. Currently a stop loss at 24. Very few fractal prints. Each of these is telling you to go long on any higher highs after these wicks. Told you to be long since 2150 when we broke out, when we crossed on the alligator here. And then you're adding stop loss. And now you're just adding on any higher high that you want to be adding on, or just waiting for the signal. The farther this gets away from the MAs like it did here, the higher the likelihood this thing tumbles down, right? That's just classic mean reversion stuff. This thing will spread out. You'll get farther above, and that's all. Be careful up there, right? Because that's when people get euphoric and lose all their money when they start longing the top. They've missed everything since 22, since 25, since 32, right? And then they say, okay, fine, I'm just going to buy here. And then that's when this thing topples over. And you want to be buying their panic sells, right? So the daily key June is at 25, let's say. Currently, that's going to move up over time. That's why this whole picture is just uncomfortable for me, because it's down so far from, it would be down so far from current price, right? But that's where the cloud wants you to buy. That's where alligator is telling you you're stopped out. So I don't know. Like we've just gone up so much. Like it wouldn't surprise me if we randomly hit a wall and tumble back down, right? It's just a very weird situation. Flipping from bear to bull that quickly, so hard, just full gas, no brakes. Lastly, I'll just mention the DeFi stuff. Also equally booming and zooming with this W, with a bull cross pending through the range, through VPVR, through monthly pivots. I think if you're smart, you're probably rotating out of higher caps a little, like, right? Taking some profit either in USD, taking NFT profit, taking those and rolling them into stuff that hasn't moved on the DeFi side of things, or just waiting for some USD to buy the dip, because man, this stuff is just cruising like no tomorrow. This is all over this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on the Brave New Coin YouTube channel, and happy trading.